What's going on, YouTube? You got Bacon here bringing you my Week 2 matchup of the ABC versus the New York Zoroarks, coached by MacheteMcGoo. Both teams coming into this game 1-0, so I'm looking to stay undefeated with another strong showing here early in the season. Just really quickly, going to run through both of our teams. My opponent has available the Mega Alakazam, Volcarona, Conkeldurr, Alolan Muck, Togekiss, Kyurem, Golisopod, Rotom Heat, Sarina, Dusclops, Archeops, Alolan Dugtrio, and Buginium Z, And I've got available to me this week, I brought a Choice Scarf Infernape, Close Combat, Rock Slide, Flare Blitz, and U-Turn. Obviously, I want to start running some non-Choice Scarf Infernape sets, but I felt like it put in a lot of work here. Obviously, at +1, being able to outspeed the Volcarona after it's gone for a Quiver Dance, and I can Revenge Kill it with Rock Slide. Close Combat and Flare Blitz just hits team really hard, and U-Turn for good momentum, and it actually has a favorable role on knocking out the Mega Alakazam, or at least putting in some massive damage on that thing so I can threaten it out and gain momentum simultaneously. Next up, we got Nightshade the Gliscor. Almost max speed to speed creep that Rotom Heat, but the rest thrown into HP and physical defense. We've got Subtoxic, Roost, and Earthquake. Obviously, kind of a stally set this week, but I thought I could put in some work against his slower mons. Whittle them down with Toxic, things like Conkeldurr, even if it's Flame Orb, I can kind of stall it out a little bit with substitutes and Roosts. Because Conkeldurr is a huge threat to my team. Obviously, didn't end up bringing it. Really glad to not see it, but I needed some kind of response to Conkeldurr on my team, so this is part of that response. You'll see a little bit later. I've got another one coming up here, but Gliscor I think is really good this week. Can stall out a lot of his mons here. Obviously, I have to be worried about things like the Kyurem and the Megazam, but I've got some better prep for those on the other end. I was really worried about the Conkeldurr, so I needed a more defensive Gliscor set this week, I felt like. Next up, we got Scizor Dedicated Sackmon making its season debut. We've got Akaberry, Roost, U-Turn, Bullet Punch, and Defog on a max HP, highly physically defensive set. Speed creeping a little bit, I think, down to like the Muck in case he was trying to run some kind of cheeky, speedy set on the Muck. But basically, just a good defogger this match. U-Turn giving me initiative on things like the Sarina. Great switch into Sarina, by the way. I've got Bullet Punch for the Kyurem, and if I need to chip down the Megazam or something like that later in the game, Akaberry so I can live an HP Fire from either the Kyurem or the Megazam, hit him with a U-Turn or a Bullet Punch, and obviously Roost for longevity, since this thing might be switching in a few times on things like Sarina over the course of the match, or Alolan Muck if he's not carrying Fire Punch. Next up, we got Tyranitar coming back here for week 2. This one is a max HP, max but def variant, so I can take Focus Blast from Mega Alakazam and knock it out with a Pursuit. The roll is heavily in my favor, even if he stays in for Pursuit to kill, and it should kill after Sand, depending on his investment, like I said. If he switches out, Pursuit is a guaranteed OHKO. I've also got Stealth Rock, Rock Slide, and Earthquake, so obviously I can't be set up on by Volcarona. I should be able to take a +1 hit from Volcarona unless it's Buginium Z, which I am kind of anticipating this match. So obviously it's not my main response to Volcarona, but obviously it can't set up on me, being that I have the Rock Slide that can OHKO it. Next up, we're bringing in Monty the Sandslash, his first game of the season. We've got an adamant offensive set this week with Life Orb, Swords Dance, Earthquake, Stone Edge, and Poison Jab. Obviously, if I ended up drafting the Rocky MZ, I'd be running that this week because nobody likes to miss Stone Edge. But I felt like offensive Sandslash can put in some work this week if I get rid of that Megazam so it can't trace my Sandrush and maybe whittle down the Sarina a little bit. I should be able to put in some work with the Sandslash. If I get +2 with Sand up, I pretty much OHKO everything on his team, assuming I hit my Stone Edges. And lastly here we got Winston the Reuniclus. We've got max HP, max physical defense, another kind of Conkeldurr response for the team. Leftovers, Calm Mind, Size Shock, Shadow Ball, and Recover. Obviously, this thing can't really touch Alolan Muck very well, so if I want to set up Calm Minds, I'll have to wait until that thing's gone. But I think Reuniclus is really nice here, especially, like I mentioned, to help take on the Conkeldurr, which, as you can see, I'm very happy that my opponent did not bring. So, obviously, Conkeldurr was a huge threat to my team. I felt like it should have come this match, even just because of the Tyranitar alone. And with coverage moves like Ice Punch, Fire Punch, even Drain Punch for Scizor is going to do good damage. I was really surprised to not see it, but also, of course, glad to not see it. I guess the Comfey and the Reuniclus kind of scared it away enough, and the Gliscor potentially scared it away enough to not show up. So I'm very happy to not see that. They did bring the Mega Alakazam, Togekiss, Sarina, Volcarona, Kyurem, and the Alolan Muck. Now, looking at his team, I'm thinking my best lead here is probably the Infernape. I am Choice Scarf, so I outspeed everything on his team guaranteed. And I can just go for a U-turn if I like my lead matchup, can gain some momentum. Or if I don't like my lead matchup, I can U-turn out and get into the appropriate response. If he leads Mega Zam, obviously I threaten that thing with the U-turn. He won't know if I'm Choice Scarf, but I think he should scout for it in the first place. And even if he doesn't, I do knock out the Mega Alakazam with the U-turn, or very likely knock it out with the U-turn. I can swap into Tyranitar to get the Sand Chip that I need. That roll is heavily in my favor, depending on his investment. So I am, as you're going to see here, just going to lead with the Infernape as he leads with Serena. So great lead for my on my end here, because I obviously threaten this Serena with a fire type attack, which he should not want to stay in on. So I'm just going to freely U-turn here. I'll do big damage to the Serena if he stays in, or it'll get me some momentum. As you can see, he likes to go to the Mega Zam, which I'm going to OHKO with this U-turn. So I don't know if he was predicting a fighting move there and was hoping the Mega Zam could threaten me afterwards. But U-turn there is going to knock out the Mega Zam. Huge threat off the board, and my Sand Slash is looking really good in the back now for a potential late game Sand Slash sweep, basically, if I can hit my Stone Edges. Because I did just get momentum here, or kind of seed momentum by killing the Mega Alakazam, I'm just going to get my Toxic Orb activated on Gliscor as he brings out the Serena. Not sure why he didn't go cure him there, but I am going to be able to get off a Toxic on this Serena as he goes for knockoff. Since my Toxic Orb is already activated, I don't care too much about losing my item. In fact, it's preferable for me to have lost it now, because Muck's not going to be able to knock me off later and do big damage. I saw the Life Orb there, so I'm going to be racking up a lot of chip on this Serena between Life Orb and Toxic damage. So I'm just going to substall a little bit here. Throwing up subs as he goes for Drop Kicks. It's going to continuously whittle down this Serena, which again is great for my Sand Slash in the back. I think after this turn, it's now already in range of a Life Orb Poison Jab from my Sand Slash, especially because this seems to be a more offensive variant of Serena. I don't think he'll be able to take a Poison Jab from Sand Slash. So once again, he's looking really good in the back there. And Gliscor is just going to sit at this point. This is kind of one of the sets that I tipped a little bit during my my draft recap for the season. A Subtoxic Roost Gliscor can be really problematic to deal with. I didn't bring Protect this week. Sometimes you see Protect over Roost, but I felt like Roost was better for me against things like Alolan Muck. I could remove my flying typing, so Ice Punch or something like that wouldn't do as much damage. But again, Gliscor is just going to 1v1 the Serena here. He does end up going for the Aromatherapy on turn 5, which gives me free behind a sub, so I can Roost on this Serena and continue to whittle him down with his own Life Orb damage. Obviously, it's really good that I didn't have knockoff on this set, or have the potential to knock off, because he's going to whittle himself down, knocking out my substitutes. I'm going to end up at relatively high health here at the end of the day. So I'm going to let him go for a couple more Drop Kicks while I go for sub. I didn't actually end up calcing this match. Again, I had timer on for this one, so I was just kind of playing. If I needed to calc something, I did kind of run out and do it, but I was just content to sit here and substitute to make sure he was in range of an Earthquake before I clicked it. Because I'm going to be getting enough health back every turn that I'm not too worried about this thing just kind of sitting in front of me while I whittle myself down very slightly by going for these substitutes. And obviously the turn that I do decide to knock out this Serena, I'm going to get essentially a double turn of Toxic Heal Recovery, because I'll get the turn from right at the end of when they knock out my substitute, in addition to right after I knock out the Serena. So coming up here on turn 9, obviously you can see the Serena's at 6%. Doesn't take a genius for me to figure out that Earthquake will KO at this range, even without calcing it. So clicking that Earthquake, and my Gliscor is still extremely healthy, so I can come in later on, mostly the Alolan Muck, potentially get Toxic off on like Togekiss or something like that, but I'm really saving this for the Alolan Muck at this point. I'm a good switch into that, unless you raw predicts Ice Punch, and even then at 88% I should be able to eat one and go for Roost to get back up my health. Now, obviously goes the Kyurem here. I make a little bit of a misplay thinking, oh, well, the Alakazam's gone, I can go into my Tyranitar and just kind of use this as my chance to get up Stealth Rocks. I really probably should have gone Scizor to threaten this Kyurem a little bit more and save my Tyranitar for later to keep the sand around for my Sand Slash. Obviously, I was mentioning Sand Slash looks really good right now versus team, but Stealth Rocks also look really good. Hitting that Volcarona for 4 times super effective damage, hitting this Kyurem for super effective damage, and hitting this Togekiss for super effective damage. So he's going to reveal the Focus Blast, obviously. I do tank that because he was not choice specs. He looks like a bulkier variant of Kyurem with leftovers. But getting that Stealth Rock up, like I mentioned, is going to be really nice. Obviously, he has potential to defog with his Togekiss, or theoretically with his Volcarona. But I think just getting them up in the first place and trying to box out the Togekiss is kind of in my best interest right now. I'm going to make misplay number 2 here and sack my Tyranitar. Obviously, now I really don't have many turns of sand left for my Sand Slash to put in any work, and obviously it won't outspeed things like Kyurem, Togekiss, Volcarona going forward. So I kind of just wasted off my Sandslash's potential here, unfortunately, by sacking my Tyranitar. I probably should have gone into Scizor earlier so I could threaten him with a Bullet Punch here, as I do here on turn 12. He's obviously going to switch out, but goes into the Togekiss, really probably wanting to defog here, maybe predicting me to go for U-turn. But I do just go for the Bullet Punch here, because anything that comes in is going to be taking massive damage from Rocks plus Bullet Punch. And obviously this is going to 2-hit KO the Togekiss now. He can't switch back in on Rocks, so he's forced to sack off this Togekiss to my Scizor here. So Scizor picking up its first kill in the first week of the season. Or sorry, its first week of the season. So knocking out that Togekiss, really nice for me. Now he pretty much has to go into Volcarona here. But he could go into Alolan Muck if he so chooses. I feel like Volcarona is probably his better play at this point because it's really his last chance to set up. So he does go into the Volcarona as I expected. And I'm not going to U-turn here because I don't want to risk the Flame Body burn because I do want to be able to do some damage to that Kyurem later on. So I'm just going to sack off my Sandslash. Sadly, Monty not getting to put in the work this week. Maybe another week in the future we can have an offensive Sandslash and actually play it properly. But since I sacked my Sandslash not doing too much. Hits me with what I believe is HP Ice for my Gliscor, and obviously doubles as coverage for my Sandslash there. So knocking me out with the HP Ice. I don't see Life Orb, so I'm again assuming Buganium Z, but I'm just going to go out into Infernape. He is in range of a Flare Blitz, so I don't need to risk the Rock Slide miss here. So I click Flare Blitz, obviously being Scarf, outspeed the Volcarona and KO that thing. Again, Infernape's still looking really good at this point in the match to help me deal with that Kyurem, which obviously he probably doesn't want to go out into right now. So he's just going to go into the Alolan Muck. I don't want to Flare Blitz this thing, like I mentioned, to keep this thing around to click Close Combat versus Kyurem. So I'm just going to do my Gliscor. It's a great response to this Alolan Muck. Even if he has Ice Punch, I'm not too worried about it. He goes for knockoff. I've already been knocked off from earlier in the game, so as I mentioned, that did a lot less damage this time around than it would have otherwise. And I'm just going to go for Substitute versus this Muck. If he switches out into Kyurem, I can Toxic that thing, or Earthquake to break its substitutes, and if he does anything else, I'm still in here versus this Muck. I really don't lose too much. And he goes for the Explosion, trying to knock out my Gliscor here, but obviously he really just gets my substitute there, and I get to KO the Muck, or the Muck KOs itself, I guess, as it were. Now my Gliscor is obviously not very helpful against this Kyurem, but for whatever reason, I just try to preserve some differential here by going into my Scizor. Bit of a misplay on my end because I am risking Scizor to like HP Fire or something like that. But I know I'm going to live one, and I really just need to get off one Bullet Punch onto this Kyurem to put it in range of my Infernape, guaranteed. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to spam Bullet Punch this Kyurem. If he does have Roost, it gets a little bit sketchy, so I would have to make some predictions with the Roost and click U-turn or something like that. But as you can see, Bullet Punch is going to do respectable damage here for not having any investment on my end. Obviously, he's a very bulky Kyurem. He hits another Focus Blast here, puts me in range of an Ice Beam, and with his leftovers, he's actually going to get just outside of range of my second Bullet Punch here. But even if he roosts at this point, my best play is to just keep clicking Bullet Punch, unless he continuously roosts and wastes them all off, so I have to play some U-turn mind games. But thankfully, it doesn't seem he has the Roost this time around. Just clicks Ice Beam again to knock out my Scizor, and I'm going to freely be able to go into my Infernape here and click Flare Blitz once again. Infernape picking up 3 kills this match. Really great job from Infernape. Like I mentioned, I'll try to run some non-Choice Scarf Infernape at some point in the season, because obviously Choice Scarf is one of Infernape's best sets, but I do want to exercise some of its versatility later on, depending on the matchups. Scarf would just happen to be the best option for me these first couple weeks. But that is going to be a 3-0 and a very good game to MacheteMcGoo. Again, I was a little confused to not see the Conkeldurr here. I thought it put in some real work versus my team with things like Mach Punch, Dream Punch, Knock Off, and then probably Ice Punch to hit the Gliscor. I think was really good coverage for it. You could run a Flame Orb set, you could run an Assault Vest set. I thought it would have put in some real work against my team. But again, really happy to not end up seeing it here. Infernape coming through with 3 KOs. Subtoxic Gliscor definitely did its job here, picking up the KO on the Serena and also kind of forcing the Muck to explode on itself. And yeah, that's about it for this week. Really glad that you guys stuck around for this long. If you did, I'll be back with week 3 coming up soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.